Hello YouTube, I'm the Foam Witch, and in this video I'm going to show you how I made the Captain Carter shield from the new Marvel What If series on Disney+. So let's get to it. So to start out I needed to make a template that I could use to draw the shield. So here I'm just sticking some sheets of paper together big enough for me to be able to draw a big circle. This was a little bit tricky because it turns out that my tiny table is not really big enough for loads of sheets of paper stuck together. So now I actually had to try and draw a big circle. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't really know what I was doing here, I just kind of winged it and hoped for the best. But I did have this amazing shield that my best friend Andy made for me, and I wanted it to be a similar size, so I just measured that. Again, I wasn't really sure how I was going to draw a circle because drawing a circle freehand is not my strong point. And looking back on it, I'm not really sure why I didn't just trace around the shield that I just showed you, but I like to make things difficult for myself. So I decided that tying a piece of string to a pencil at the right length was the best option. And for the main outer circle, it was actually a success. So now I needed to draw the inner circles, and this again was a case of lots of measuring, lots of plotting points on the circle, and hoping that they all joined up and were a similar size. This took forever, and for some reason I couldn't get the string method to work this time, so I had to use a curved edge just to try and draw the circles in the centre. But as happens a lot in my life, I winged it, I hoped for the best, and it turned out okay in the end. So I repeated this until I had the 3 outer segments and the middle section. And then it was just a case of cutting it out, and I really wish I could cut out this fast in real life. So now I just wanted to make the lines a little bit easier for me to see, so I just drew around them with a Sharpie just to make them stand out a little bit more. The first of many thumbs up, and yes, I expect you to count them all during this video. So the first section I cut out was the middle section, and I put this to one side for use later on. Now to draw the outline of the shield, I just put the template on the foam, held it down and drew around it with a Sharpie for a nice clear line. And obviously the same for the middle section. Then I went and cut out the individual lines in order to draw around them as well. But I had to use pins to help stick this to the foam to draw around so it didn't move. Yep, again with the cutting out and the drawing round, but it's a really repetitive process. Thankfully, this was the last circle I had to draw around. Now just a quick measure to make sure the segments were the same width, and we're good to cut out. Now for the outer part of the shield, I'm using an inward bevel cut. This is just so that the edge of the shield is nice and thin. Ta-da! And now to cut out the middle section, this is just a normal straight cut. Now there's a lot of different ways to make a foam shield curved, but I'm using a tip that I learned from Heroes Workshop. If you don't already follow them on YouTube and Instagram, make sure you do. If you cut out a little segment in the shield and stick it together, it will give that natural curve, and this actually worked really well. So now it's just a case of using contact adhesive on both edges and then sticking them together once they are dry. And as you can see, this is giving it a nice curve. And now I want to add some detail to the other lines of the shield. So for this, I'm going to score the foam. The aim of this is not to cut all the way through the foam, you only want to cut about halfway. And what this does is it scores the foam so that when you get a heat gun and you heat it up, those scores will open slightly and give some nice detail lines on a project. As you can see here, those lines have opened up slightly and makes the detail pop. This is also going to help me when it comes to painting, so there's a bit of a gap between each of the lines. Now to attach the centerpiece, and again I just use contact adhesive on both edges, wait for it to dry and then stick them together. This did prove a little bit tricky. I think I cut the center plate a slightly bit too small, so I did have to go back and glue this a second time just to get the areas that I missed. Now onto the detail of the center part. You will have to forgive this awful bit of filming. I didn't realise that the camera lead had got in the way of the camera. But this is just a template I drew out, which I'm cutting out that I can then transfer onto the foam. And to give this the detail it needs, I'm going to use the same scoring method that I just used to add the lines. So again, just scoring the foam, not trying to cut all the way through it. This really did wreck my head a bit because the lines on the Union Jack are not all in the same place, so I really had to concentrate when I was doing this to make sure that I didn't mess it up. And again, just heating it up with the heat gun, and you can see the magic happen before your very eyes. Haha, get it? Magic? Foam witch? Yeah. Now I just want to neaten it up a little bit, try and remove any seams, just tidy it up around the edge. So I'm going to use my Dremel just to sand it down and make it as smooth as I can. You're going to want to wear a respirator when you're doing this because you don't want that dust going in your lungs. So I've just taken the sanding barrel and I'm just sanding around any high spots just to level them off a bit. Also going over the seam line just to make that a bit more noticeable. And then taking it around the edge of the shield just to tidy that up a little bit too. Now that's done, I'm just going to take some sandpaper and wet sand around the edges where I've just Dremeled. I can't remember exactly, but I think this was about 400 grit sandpaper, and this is just to smooth any rough lines that the Dremel has caused. Here I'm just taking my heat gun to dry any of the water that I used when I was wet sanding. Heating the foam this way also heat seals the foam, which is really going to help when it comes to the sealing and painting stage. Heating the foam also really helps if you need to shape the foam, so say bend it or flatten it out. So now I'm going to work on detailing the back of the shield. And the middle section, obviously because it's been cut out, has a big seam. So what I'm going to do is instead of filling it in, I'm just going to hide it. First, however, I'm going to add a bit of extra strength by just filling in the seam with some hot glue. This just makes it a bit stronger in the end. Now I'm just cutting out a circle a bit larger than the seam is in the middle, and I'm just going to stick it over the hot glue and hide it all. This is just a quick way to neaten things up and hide any unsightly seams. How many thumbs up are we up to now? Back to the front of the shield now, and where I traced the template to add the lines of the foam, it's left some pen residue behind. So what I'm going to do is tidy that up. I'm just going to take a bit of white spirit and rub over the lines, and this should bring the pen marks right off. You don't have to do this, but with the pen I use, sometimes it shows through the sealer and the paint, so I just like to tidy it to make sure it's not going to be there. Now back to the back of the shield, and I'm going to work on making the plates where the arm straps will go. I've just got some paper, and what I'm doing is I'm drawing the basic shape of the arm plate, and then I'm just going to cut it out of foam, and then stick it onto the back of the shield. I've only drawn one of these because they're going to be symmetrical on both sides, so what I'm going to do is draw this on the foam, flip it over, and then get that one for the other side. Now I'm just placing them on the shield to see where they will sit, then I will draw around them to mark where I need to put the contact adhesive, to hopefully try and keep it within the lines, but I'm a messy builder so it never happens like that. Then just wait for it to get touch dry, and once it is, you can attach the two pieces. Now on the back of most Captain America shields there are some rivet details, so I'm going to assume this is the same on the Captain Carter shield, so I'm just going to try and add those now. I've done this by taking some 1mm foam and a hole punch, and I've cut out so many of these little rivet things that I've even lost count of how many there was, but it took forever. Even though it's sped up, I haven't added the whole video of me cutting these out, because even though it is probably triple the speed, it'll still be an hour-long video, it took that long. Once I'd spent my whole life cutting out these little rivets, I took some super glue, and this is how I was going to stick them on, mainly because they were fiddly, so contact adhesive would just be a big mess. Again, this took a really long time, but I'm glad I did it because it really does add to the detail of the finished shield. As it's on the back of the shield, it's probably a little detail that not many people are even going to see or realise is there, but it just brings the thing together as a whole. Now I just need to fill in some seam lines just to make sure that they're extra hidden. And for this, I just like to use some quick seal. I've tried using foam clay, but I find that it doesn't really stick in the seams as well. Maybe I'm using it wrong, which is probably the case. So to use this, you just add a tiny little bit of water to the seam you want to fill in, and then you smooth the quick seal paste over the top until it's kind of feathered. Once it was dry, I just went over it with some Hex Flex just to see if I wanted to fill it in again, which I did, but I haven't added that to the video. And that, my friends, is the main build of the Captain Carter shield finished. In the next video, I'm going to show you how I went about painting this, so please look out for that. If you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot. If you've enjoyed this video, please think about giving a like. If this has inspired you to make your own Captain Carter shield, let me know in the comments because that would be awesome. And if you like videos like this and want to see more content, please subscribe to my channel because that would just be incredible. So thanks again for watching, and I'll see you next time.